Hey guys, how's it going? It's Andy from MagooInvesting. Today we're going to be continuing the Robinhood Top Stock series, and today we're going to be talking about Verizon, ticker symbol VZ. And so this is kind of one of those videos where in the past I've talked about if you're trying to get into a new sector, I highly recommend going into the leader in that sector. And when you look at the numbers, Verizon is the leader in the telecommunications space. You kind of have to take into account how the charts look. And so as a technical analysis trader like myself, there may be better options out there than Verizon, but for fundamentals and kind of how the company is set up for the future in 5G, Verizon may be the best option for you. And so this is kind of a great example of you need to find what type of investments you're looking for. Are you looking for fundamentals? Are you looking for technical analysis? And then you got to pick which one you're more confident in. And so today we're going to be breaking down Verizon. We're going to look on the charts. I'm going to see what I see about trends going forward, and then we're going to look to see what the analysts, what the professionals have to say about VZ going forward. And before we go any further, I got to say that I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and I highly recommend talking to a professional, someone that can find you the best places for your money going forward. So Verizon as a company is very strong. It has the best network, it has the most amount of customers in the United States, so it's set up well for that. But on the charts, I don't see a lot of very attractive plays. For a company like Verizon, it may be safer to take a long-term position. You're mainly not going to be able to take successful short-term swing trades just because the volatility isn't really there. Also, with the high dividend yield, a long-term position may be better suited for this type of company. But when comparing it to, say, AT&T, which is a video that I talked about here, I think that AT&T is better in most aspects except for the numbers and fundamentals of the company. So I think AT&T has a more attractive chart, and I think the higher dividend yield is also more attractive. I think AT&T is sitting somewhere between 5 and 6%, and Verizon is sitting at 4.5%, I believe. And with that being said, let's hop on over to the computer and talk about Verizon, ticker symbol VZ. All right, so here we are on Robinhood again. Portfolio is down a little bit on the day just because Bitcoin decided to fall off a cliff again. So you know what, that's fine. Not what I'm worried about today. Today we're on here to talk about Verizon, ticker symbol VZ. So let's hop on over there. It has it as a around 70% hold with 28,000 people holding it. And so it's sitting around $59 currently. It's pretty flat on the day. 1 week down 1%, 1 month down 2.5%, 3 month is up 3%, 1 year is pretty level, and 5 year is up 15%. So not exactly the track record of amazing returns that we like to see, but the thing that's very attractive about Verizon is this dividend yield of 4.07%. It's pretty good, not as good as, let's hop on to AT&T. AT&T's currently is 7, so you can see the difference in there, and the track record for AT&T is in the 1 year has been much better. So today we're going to be comparing those two a lot, just because when you're trying to pick the difference between better investments, I think it's very important to look at the competitors. All right, so here we are on TD Ameritrade looking at Verizon, and so the first thing I always do is look at the 4-hour 180-day chart, and I try to chart out some important zones. So we see this area that's been hanging out here recently. It's touched over here, so we're going to make this a zone. I call that it's hanging out around a support. Recently tried breaking through this on 10.10, pushed it back, and now it's back to where it was. So it could be a decent support. Then we like going to the all-time high and charting that out. As you can see, this is a pretty solid resistance. It has not been able to break above this in a while. And then we'll go to the lower end, and don't see anything super attractive there. We'll call that a zone. One of the things that I'm seeing is that a couple times it's been respecting the 200-day moving average. As you can see, it's broken through that and has not respected it in a while. But as the price has gone up, the 200-day moving average is starting to come up and probably get closer to where the price action is currently. So that's something that I could potentially be watching in the future for a play. I also like the fact that it's sitting around a recent support, so it might be a good idea to look at that for a potential swing trade. One of the things that I'm not super excited about is the fact that the stock does not move very much. And so for a swing trade, buying around a support, you only have 3% to go up until the 52-week high. And so when I talk about stocks that I like taking a position in, the things I'm looking for are companies that I know and I trust. Verizon checks the box for that. But it's recently been hit by bad news or bad earnings. And so right now it's just kind of been consolidating for a while. Not exactly the bad news that we're looking for. Getting in over here after it got destroyed by these bad news back in June of this year. I don't remember what that news story was, but it fell pretty far. Let's see, that was almost a 9% move. And so if I had seen that, that might have been attractive because it's basically a stock that I care about that's on discount. Right now, that is not the case. And then the other thing I look for is a trend or consolidation that shows that it could be pushing upward in the future. I kind of see that. It's been consolidating around the support. The problem is the risk reward is not that great. If it breaks through the support, it could be heading back down to a lower zone, which is down a couple percent, and the potential profit of it going back up to its 52-week high is only 3%. So it's not attractive enough for me to be taking a position here. One of the attractive things about Verizon is the dividend. And so the dividend is not super close, so that's not that attractive. Also, for the types of plays I'm looking for, not loving that either. So now let's look at the longer time frame, the 10-year 1 day. As you can see, it's kind of been choppy, but steadily been going up for the past year, 2 years. It's been kind of all over the place. Back, let's see, this is in 2010, it was at $29 or $26, and now it's currently sitting at $60. So the returns haven't been amazing, but with a nice dividend yield, kind of makes up for that. You don't really see that in the charts as well. But when we're looking at this, let's chart out some other zones. So we'll extend this area out to the left because it's been respected over here. Let's see if we can draw something else. That looks pretty solid. Oh, I hate when I have the wrong tool. So that looks like a decent zone right there. And so at this point right now, when you look at the longer time frame, for a swing trade, I don't see a lot of positives looking at it. It's sitting around support, which is always nice, but the margin for profit is not super attractive. So I'm going to set an alert to see if it'll come back down and test this area, because that might make it more attractive. The dividend yield will become higher, or the percentage. But right now, the swing trading opportunities are not super nice for me, so I don't love that. The very attractive thing about Verizon is the dividend, but when we compare it to something like AT&T, this chart doesn't look that great. But when you see that it still has room to go before it reaches its 52-week high, the fact that it has a much larger dividend yield, and the fact that in the past 180 days, things have been going very well for the stock, kind of the reason why I'm leaning towards AT&T if I was going to be taking a position in a telecommunications sector. Or I could look at something like MSI, which if it loads, has the track record of plenty of years of gains. The dividend yield is not high, but you make up for that with the charts. And so looking back at Verizon, out of those 3 stocks that I've talked about in this video, I think Verizon is not the most attractive. So now let's take a look to see what the analysts have to say. So I always like to look at the price forecast first. And so looking at this on CNN, you see a very wide range for the price forecast. And for a stock that is sitting around a 52-week high, I don't exactly love the fact that they think that it could go down by 16% in the next year, considering it is only up 5.6% year to date. So the upper end, the median is positive, but not super attractive based off of this. We've looked at some stocks recently where all of the upper and lower bound of the price forecast were positive. And so for taking a stock that looks like it's sitting around its all-time high and does not look like the analysts are very confident that it could push above this or push that much higher. So not super attractive in that aspect. And then when we go and look at Yahoo Finance, they have it as a hold, overvalued, down in the short term, medium, up in the long term. And so I think this is just for the fact of when I talked about I don't see a lot of attractive swing trades. I think that's what they're seeing here. The short and medium term is kind of cloudy. It's sitting around a 52-week high, sitting around a resistance, so we don't really know where it could be going in the future, but long term it's probably positive with the dividend yield that it has, plus the transition into 5G for telecommunications companies. So I think long term Verizon is going to be in the green. I always like to say if I'm taking a position for a long term, 5 years from now do I expect to be in the green? And with Verizon, I'd say yes. The problem is I don't think that's the best, or I would have the best return with Verizon 5 years from now compared to something like an AT&T, which I've talked about so many times in this video. But I think when you're looking for companies to invest in, if you're not just going to invest in the market as a whole, you need to find something that's going to outpace the S&P or just kind of the market overall. And so Verizon overall, I think, is a pretty safe play for a long-term investment. I don't see a lot of potential for a shorter-term swing trade. So if I was going to be taking a long-term position in, say, a company like Verizon, I'd feel pretty confident. However, I think it's important to kind of look at the competitors. And as I've mentioned already, I think AT&T is more attractive for the upside on the charts and with the dividend yield currently. And as I talked about, these long-term investments aren't exactly what I'm looking for right now, but there's a million different ways to invest your money, and I'd like talking about these longer-term investments because it's a safer route for people that aren't trying to put as much time looking in the charts, trying to figure out where the stock could be going next. So for that aspect, I like Verizon. I think AT&T is better, but Verizon for a long-term play, I'd feel pretty confident about it going forward. And so let me know what you think about Verizon overall. Is it a good long-term investment? Do you see any potential swing trades with the charts? And do you think the dividend yield is enough to warrant taking a position by a 52-week high? Let me know in the comments section down below. And if there's a company or an idea you'd like me to go over in a future video, please let me know as well. And just a heads up, tomorrow I'm going to be taking the GRE to go to grad school, so tomorrow there probably will not be a video or it'll be late, but I'll see you guys on Wednesday when we continue the Robinhood Top Stock series. Thanks for watching.